welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. I have so much I want to share with you today, but before I dive right into all of this fibery content, I just want to mention to those of you that follow me for the more fabric-ended, do not worry. As soon as I am done with the rest of these very fibery events that are taking place in July and in August, I will be sharing more fabric content because behind the scenes, my son and I are working on a large king-sized English paper piecing hexagon grandma's flower garden quilt. And we have been cutting fabric, cutting templates, the paper piecing templates. We have been getting all of that prepped. And we've actually been doing a little of the piecing. So there will be more fabric fun coming up soon. I also want to welcome all of you new subscribers to my channel. I am so excited that you have found me. I also do not want to forget to give a shout out to all of you that have been subscribed for so long and support me with every video with wonderful words of encouragement and clicks of like and just views. Thank you all. I just wanted to take the time to thank you ahead of getting into all of this fibery fun. So I'm going to cover Tour de Fleece, Ravellenics games, and plans for Tour de Fleece Femmes. So let's just go ahead and dive in. I want to make one note. I think I want to let you know, if you are on Ravelry, I have already just uploaded all of the finished photos of every one of my 21 colors that I spun during Tour de Fleece. Now, Tour de Fleece normally runs Tour de Fleece following the Tour de France, and then it rolls right into Tour de Fleece Femmes. And we do, we follow the Tour de France Femmes. They run back to back. But because of the Paris Olympics, we have an interruption of Ravellenics games. And I'm going to talk a bunch about that here in just a few moments. But first, let's talk about my Tour de Fleece spinning haul. And here we have it. The 21 colors that I spun plus my undyed test spin that I spun at the beginning before the event started. So the goal was to spin something that could be used for some types of embroidery work. And while it's not as fine as I first expected to be spinning, it definitely meets the mark. It is at 22 wraps per inch. It is perfectly thin enough to work for the process. And I even have a sample of something to show you kind of one of the ideas of using it. But I managed to get all of the 21 colors spun. It was touch and go right at the very end because I had fun things happening. And so on the last day of spinning, rather than getting spinning early, I was doing it wee hours of the night. But I have it all done. They've all been, all the twist has been set. They've been washed. And if you are on Ravelry, all of the photos are now up in my hand spun project. Okay. I've tried to take the photos so that there's a little different lighting between when they're on the bobbin and when they're off the bobbin, the singles versus the ply, so that you can kind of get a little different idea, a better idea, I guess, overall of the color of each one of the colors. Because I've showed you the pictures of when I dyed the fiber, and because I've talked about how I love dyeing the fiber so that you get dark spots and light spots and a lot of different colors, I wanted to make sure that the photos of this finished spin also showed some of the variation of that color. So you will see that there's a little bit of color variation because, as any of you that have tried to take photos of fiber know, getting a true color a true rendition for those of us that are just using our phones is sometimes just a little difficult. So you will see a little variation because of that, but it will give you a good feel and idea. I am going to try to put together a short Instagram reel of all 21 of my little skeins. So keep an eye out for that. That should be going up. It may come out just before this video. It may come out just after this video. So there are two ways to see the finished yarns on Ravelry, and I will put together an Instagram reel as well. Okay, so there's my 21 fibers. Now, what are they being used for? Why do I have this huge rainbow? Well, one of the things that I wanted to have, set that down, is I wanted to have some fibers that could be used if I decided to do an applique, a wool applique quilt. I wanted to have wool fibers to do the buttonhole stitch, the edge stitching, to apply the felted wool patches. In the time that my son's been here, though, I've been trying to teach him some of the little tips and tricks. He learned a lot of stuff in his youth, but it's been a few years since he's been able to do some of these things. So we've been refreshing his skills and refreshing his memory by giving him little projects like this little mug rug. Now, I'm going to zoom in because you'll see the big stitch quilting that he has used going around to hold this little mug rug together. And by the way, sneak peek, those are some of the fabrics that he is using in his large king size English paper piecing quilt. But for the topic of today, if we look at that big stitch quilting, that thread that he's using is my hand dyed, hand spun silk yarn. And that is one of the ways this fiber can be used. So in this case, he's using some of the silk I've spun. It would be just as easy to use something like this in this fashion. The original intent was to have something to be used to applique patches on, but it could also be used in different types of embroidery, like the crewel work type of embroidery. That is the kind of idea behind 21 colors of fiber being spun for this tour de fleece. But there was something really interesting about this, and this kind of helps segue into me talking about Ravellenics. So this color here was especially difficult to rinse away all the excess dye. Some blues are notorious about bleeding, about having excess dye, about being very intense. This was one of them. And I really had to work to get this to run clear. If I had worked the unspun fiber to get all the dye out of it, I would have felted and it would never have been able to spin it. Let me put this down and I will show you. I had to really work. And you might notice how this yarn grabs because it is slightly felted. It's not unusable felted. I can re-hank this, re-skein this. When I put this into a ball, I can pull apart the fibers. It will be fine. But wow, it really is a felty fiber. So that actually is really good to know. Unlike some of my other fibers, let me see, I don't know if I have any of it right here. Unlike some of my other fibers that I've spun that I have felted and it just doesn't want to felt. This is a very felty fiber. And that led me to an idea. So with Ravellenics, let me just explain Ravellenics. Whenever there's an Olympic Games occurring, Ravelry hosts a celebration inspired by the celebration of the Olympics. Hosts a celebration in which we can join in events. We can basically, it's basically a huge get together and show and tell and challenge ourselves to make things. To make, for instance, a toy, or to make a sweater, or to spin fiber. And it's not, now there might be teams, there might be just like with Tour de Fleece, you might have teams and shops may sponsor, say, let's have some fun for, well, we'll have raffles, we'll have giveaways, we'll have door prizes. There's a number of ways people can then take this and support their local yarn stores, get together, have a community. And that's what it really comes down to. It's about sharing that community. It's about sharing what we are making friends, show and tell. We all love the show and tell. And so Ravelry hosts this way for us to feel good about what we're making and share it with others. So there are a number of events. There are sweaters and toys and household goods. It can be knit, it can be crochet, it can be weaving, it can be spinning. This year, my goal is to spin this fiber. This is the combing waste that I've then carded from my 21 colors. So this was the stuff that when I was combing my fibers to have nice smooth threads, nice smooth spinning, the worsted spinning. This was the leftover. This was what was pulled out, the shorts, the shortcuts, etc. And I carded it, and it's perfectly spinnable, and it will be fabulous because I now know it likes to felt. So my goal is to get this spun in the early days of Ravellenics so that my son can use this to make a project, a bag, much like this one. Probably not going to be this big. We're thinking a small bag. He's into things like Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop games. And so we're thinking maybe a little multicolored dice bag that he can make and then felt it down so it's nice and compact and sturdy. So that's going to be the goal. And it will be to teach him. So the bottom of this bag, and I've showed it before, that is not a seam. That is the cast on. I did this bag much like doing a toe-up sock. And I love the bag, and I've showed it before. I love the bag, and I want to teach him the concept because unlike making a sock, you don't have any heel that you have to deal with. You don't have to make a second sock. So I want to teach him how to do that cast on and knit in the round on this project bag because he has been knitting for a long time, but he's been a little hesitant to try knitting in the round, definitely a sock. So this is to reintroduce him to the knitting in a new way. So one of the projects that he's going to be working on, if we make the progress that we hope, is taking what I spin from this, and then he'll make it into a bag. So that's one of the projects. One of the other events is a works in progress event. You can take any of your works in progress that your whips, you can take them and finish them, and that is an event. And I have my languishing little dude. And I went through and I was like, okay, it's been languishing so long, I can't even remember which one I was making. But then I found that I had left a sticky note, and it's that little bunny rabbit. So I have the body done, I have half the head done. So one of my first things I want to do, in addition to spinning that fiber, is finish that toy. And that will be finishing of a works in progress. Now, if I'm really efficient and get that finished, then I also want to take some fiber and make another toy. But first I want to show you the toy my son is going to make. So we're going to use these. I have all 3 of her big books, okay? And they are heavy. And my son wants to make this little guy. Now to make that little guy, he needs some yarn. And it just so happens I have some yarn, and I'm pretty sure this is yarn that I spun 3-4 years ago in Tour de Fleece, because it's yellow. But what we did is we took this yellow and we overdyed it. And we overdyed it so it has some dark spots. Let me see if I can, and some light spots. And he's going to hold 2 strands together to make this little guy. The hat is going to be this bold color, and the body and the underside of the hat. The underside of the hat will be the yellow and cream. The top of the hat will be the yellow and orange, and the body will just be the cream. So that's what he's making as his toy. So he has done a lot of crochet before. He has done some shapes and some crochet shapes, but he's never done anything quite as follow a pattern as that little Imkin. So that's going to be his toy that he's going to work on. And then this book just came out and I am so excited. It just arrived early this week, I think. And I am so excited to dig in. I am so excited to make one of these guys. So when we pulled out that fiber that I was showing you, there were these guys. And of course, I guess, again, I'm pretty sure this is all going back to a BFL or something like that I spun for Tour de Fleece 3 or 4 years ago. Actually, more like 5 or 6 years ago now that I'm thinking about it, because my daughter graduated, let's see, that would have been in 18. And so I probably spun this in the summer of the Tour de Fleece in 2018. I'm pretty sure that might be when I did it. It might have been 2019, but I'm pretty sure it was 2018. So yellow, because of course, whenever I do Tour de Fleece, it makes me think I should have the yellow jersey. But I'm going to use this to make one of these monsters. The eyeballs, I got big, gigantic eyeballs that have come. So I am so excited. That is my big challenge. I have my spinning, I have my work and my whip that I want to finish, but I want to use this and make a monster. So my son will be using these, and I'll be using these to make some really fun amiguramis. So that is what our plans are for Ravellenics. So I wanted to mention too, before I forget, I think I may have just mentioned this. If you go on Ravelry, you'll see all of this. I will try to do a little better. I'll try to have all my projects for Ravellenics also up on Ravelry as well. I'll try to do a little bit better about sharing the stuff on Instagram. I have been terrible. I've been spinning. I've been doing my physical therapy. I have been spending time with my children, and I have not been posting as much on Instagram or on Facebook. I will try to do better as we go into the next 2 weeks. When the Ravellenic games are over, when the Olympics are over, and we go into Tour de Fleece Femmes, I do have a spinning project that I'll be finishing up. I've already started on it a little bit before the other games. I'm probably not going to do anything dedicated specifically for Tour de Fleece Femmes other than finish a spin I've already got started. It's the merino that I used again to exhaust some of the dye from these guys. And I'll probably not do much more than that because I will be a little bit, well, I don't want to start another big spinning project this late unless I, really find myself aching to spin, because I do have the other things going on. As the temperature starts leaving the horrible summer weather temperature, I will be more and more in the sewing room. I have some sewing projects that I am desperate to get back to. So for those of you that follow me for spinning, just know that there'll always be a little bit of spinning. I'll always try to share with you what I've been making. But I am going to be moving more into some of the fabric projects again, because that's just what that's my yearly cycle. I love doing all the spinning. I love spinning for a project and a need. And I love spinning for Tour de Fleece. I love spinning for Ravellenics. I love spinning for Tour de Fleece Femmes. But otherwise, it's much more project-oriented spinning. And I do know going into the fall, coming out of Ravellenics, I am hoping to get my son back at his spinning wheel and have him working on a spun fiber for a project. But that's probably going to be more towards the autumn temperatures and the autumn season and the autumn colors. So I just wanted to give you all of these updates and let you know, keep an eye out. As I said, I will try to I have photos already up on Ravelry. I will make sure to keep updating the projects. I'll try to do better on Instagram. But I am really, really amazingly looking forward to the events of Ravellenics, to making a monster. I really want to make these monsters. And I find these to be a wonderful way to use my hand spun, to take those yarns that I've spun in the past, to put them into good use. So I am not, as those of you that follow me know, I am not a big, I kind of wing it most of the time. I'm not one to follow patterns really well, but I do love this book. And again, let me, both of these authors, both of these creators, I love what they've done. This one is in British terminology. This one is US. I love them both. I love their component type style. Hold on, I have an itch. I love the way that they've organized them, and the way that when you learn how to make the body, or learn this one here, it is, you pick a body, you pick a head, you pick horns, you pick accessories. This one, the bodies are very similar. It has different ears, different techniques. I love how both of them are so friendly to hand spun yarn. In the case of, like with my son, the fiber that I've spun is thinner than the worsted weight this calls for. So hold two strands together and it should be fine. It works. Your size of creature changes depending on the thickness of your yarn, but it definitely works. So if you're looking for projects, if you're taking part in Ravellenics and you don't have a pattern that you want to use yet, to use that hand spun from Tour de Fleece, consider one of these books. They are great uses for our hand spun. And no, I do not get I am not receiving any promotion, I'm not affiliated. I'm just really happy to find something that is user-friendly enough that someone like me who does not like to follow a pattern can follow the pattern. It inspires me. It's like when you're cooking, it's like when you're cooking up a dish and you see this great picture of a fabulous food dish, but you look at the ingredients and you're like, oh, I don't like this one, this one, and this one. Well, what can I substitute it with? These books are like that. It's a recipe. It is a guide. It gives you all the instructions, so if you want to follow it step by step, you're golden. If, like me, you don't follow things step by step very well, and you want to improvise, it really is supportive of that. So if you haven't picked something and you want to try, certainly you can join me in spinning, synchronized spinning, show and tell. But you can do some toys. There are cowls, there are hats, mittens, socks. It's wonderful. So if you haven't checked it out, it is the Ravellenic Summer Games 2024 on Ravelry. And it is not affiliated in any way, shape, or form. None of this is affiliated with the Olympics. It is not copying it. It is not an Olympic Games. It is not competition. It is, it's getting together and knitting and sewing and crocheting rather than saying getting together at a pub to watch the sport. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're getting together to embrace and celebrate and support the athletes out there doing these sports, not trying to take away from, not trying to attach ourselves to them, to be cheerleaders, but cheerleaders in the comfort of our homes, however we like to knit, so if we're knitting, we might want to go and sit in a pub and knit our creations. But it's for us to be able to knit and celebrate the things that we like doing while celebrating the things we like supporting. That's what it comes down to. So if you haven't jumped on the bandwagon and you're interested in doing so, definitely check it out. It is not a stressful thing. No judge. The only judging is, did you post the pictures and say you were done? That's, it's about learning how to post it, sharing it, participating in it, sharing and cheering on everyone else. This is not a competition that judges you on whether or not you've done something by somebody else's standards. It is about challenging yourself to reach a goal in a short little tiny bit of time, because Tour de Fleece is 21 days, or 23 days if you have the rest days. Ravellenics is 2 weeks, I think a day over 2 weeks, something like that. And Tour de Fleece Femmes is only really a week. So these are events that challenge us to say, can I start something and finish it? Can I do it for me? Can I do it for somebody else? It's for us. And there is nothing at all wrong with starting and not getting it finished in the time frame and finishing it later, because it's inspiring us to try. It's inspiring us to try. My son wants to make this, but because we have this little time frame, now he'll sit down and make this rather than maybe put it off as we're doing other fun things. That's the goal. That's the idea. So whether or not, let's get some color up here. We are, there we go. Whether or not we are participating in Tour de Fleece or Ravellenics or Tour de Fleece, or Tour de Fleece Femmes, or whether we're just spinning and crafting and knitting on our own. It's always good to do something that we can share with others once in a while. Share our success, share our struggles, even share when we have to rip it all out and start over again or set it aside. As we say, we might have to set it into time out for a while and let it think about itself while we do something else. It's always a good thing to step outside of our cozy little comfort zones and share what we're doing with others and share our life with others for a little tiny bit of time or a lot of time. It's a good thing to unwind in the company of others as we play with our fiber and fabrics. So until probably next week, because I'll have to, I'm sure, show an update. I wish you the best. Happy spinning, happy knitting, happy crafting. And until then, bye-bye.